The men's basketball tournament is this week in Chicago, Illinois, and 14 teams enter. Only one is going to come out on top as the Big Ten champion and receive an automatic berth into the NCAA tournament. Now, when you're breaking this one down, and good luck, right? Good luck to me. Good luck to anybody that's trying to break this one down and say, this team's going to win, or that team's going to win, or this team's going to win. Like, it's almost impossible. Every team has beaten almost every other team, and for a lot of the season, we've seen the Purdue Boilermakers really maybe separate themselves as the top team, but then again, they've come down, right? They've lost to an Indiana. They've lost to a Northwestern, right? Early in the season, they were undefeated, but they got down to the wire against the Nebraska Cornhuskers. I believe we would think a lot different about Nebraska if the Huskers were able to win that game against the Purdue Boilermakers. So how do you break this one down? When it comes to March, whether you're talking about the national tournament or whether you're talking about the conference tournament, and I think you can jumble March Madness all together because some of these conference tournaments can get pretty crazy. I think it's all about the matchup. What kind of matchup? Does it match up with the style of play that maybe you're playing versus another team? You got to factor that in. So when we talk about matchups, we got to take a look at everybody's favorite word during the month of March. You got to take a look at brackets. And here's what the bracket looks like for the 2023 Big Ten men's basketball tournament. Now, first thing I'm going to start with is this first day of matchups, right? Ohio State and Wisconsin, checked out some ESPN bracketology before I came to work today, and Wisconsin right now appears to maybe be in a slot to make the NCAA tournament. Ohio State is not going to make the NCAA tournament. Let's just put it that way. So Wisconsin, I believe all they have to do to notch themselves into the NCAA tournament is to get a win against Ohio State. Now you lose against Ohio State, and now things are getting a little bit weird. Things are getting a little bit on the bubble, as they say, for the Wisconsin Badgers, okay? And then you take a look at that other game, Minnesota and Nebraska. Man, it's been a tough year for Minnesota basketball. Of course, women's coach Lindsey Whalen just resigned, and Ben Johnson and the Gophers men's team have only won 8 games. Yes, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games this year in all the Big Ten, or overall. That's not just in the Big Ten. That's their overall win total this season. Fred Hoiberg in Nebraska. Okay, that's a program that's taking steps forward. Okay, let's not sugarcoat it. Nebraska has made steps, and just as I said before, Nebraska's not really in a conversation. They shouldn't be in a conversation. They're just barely over 500. Okay, I believe we might be having a little bit of a different conversation. I'm not saying they would be, but they might be a tournament team, or at least on the bubble. They're not on the bubble right now. Nebraska might be on the bubble if they would have gone out and if they would have held on and beaten Purdue in Lincoln earlier on this season. It did not turn out that way for the Nebraska Cornhuskers, but I digress. That is going to, assuming Nebraska advances past Minnesota, that's going to be a tough matchup for the Maryland Terrapins here in the possible next day in a possible Thursday game. Now, I'm going to jump back to Ohio State and Wisconsin, because no matter who wins that game, no matter who comes out on top, they got to play the Iowa Hawkeyes. And you know what about that Iowa team? They lost to both Ohio State and Wisconsin this season, so nothing's guaranteed for the Iowa Hawkeyes. Now, Iowa still looks like a tournament team, and the thing is, when they're at their best, this is a team that can maybe make a Sweet 16 run. This is maybe a team that can make an Elite 8 run. When they're not playing their best, when Fran is staring a hole through referees, then things aren't that great. It's the inconsistency right now that kills me with the Iowa Hawkeyes. I talked about the losses to Ohio State and Wisconsin, but then again, late in the season, they come and they beat Indiana by a lot. Right? I think it was more than 20 points they beat Indiana by. Now, Indiana is kind of going through their own things, which I'll get to them here in just a minute. But to be honest with you, Iowa's sitting in a spot right now where I don't know where to go, right? We talked about flipping coins at the beginning of this broadcast. I don't know where to go with the Iowa Hawkeyes. Okay, I could very well see Iowa beating, say, Wisconsin. I could see Iowa beating Michigan State. I could see Iowa getting into the semifinals. Maybe even they play with Purdue, even though their one meeting with Purdue this season, they fell short. Okay, and then even if they get to the semifinals, that's still a good amount of momentum built in this tournament. So, but I just don't know. Iowa could bow out to Wisconsin. Wisconsin could go on a run, and they could get to the semifinals. This is what the beauty is about Big Ten men's basketball. All right, so let's kind of look at some other areas of the bracket. Indiana's an interesting team. Xavier Johnson sounds like he's out for the remainder of the season. That's a big loss in that backcourt for this team. It kind of puts more pressure a little bit on guys like Trace Jackson Davis, guys like Race Thompson, Jalen Hood-Schifino, even though he's really stepped up, I think, in the absence of Xavier Johnson. So I really think that Indiana's a team, they can win this tournament. I don't think there's any doubt about it. The Indiana Hoosiers can win the Big Ten tournament. They can also lose to Maryland. Okay? That could very well happen. I want to talk about a team briefly here that's sitting right there at the 2 seed. Northwestern. Northwestern has had some good wins, and Northwestern is kind of the darling of the Big Ten tournament, right? It's kind of the microcosm of Big Ten basketball here right now. But when I look at the Northwestern Wildcats, this is a team with Boo Buie. They have a good backcourt, and if we know anything about March, if we know anything about tournament play, it's you got to have good guards, and you got to have a good backcourt. Now, they're a well-rounded team. Sounds like Chris Collins is right on the verge of getting an extension at Northwestern, but man, I really believe, I don't think this is a team right now that maybe is going to fare great. I still think in a head-to-head matchup, I take Indiana over Northwestern. Look at that 7-10 matchup. Look at Penn State and Illinois. Those are two very interesting teams because right now, remember when Brad Underwood was getting on his guys? Man, has this team turned around. He said in a press conference the other day, I don't want to play us. We're a dangerous team, and I agree with him. This is an athletic team. Right? This is a team that can get up and down the floor. They can play with pace. If you like guard play, Illinois and Penn State is going to be a fantastic matchup for you. Okay, I want to see all those guards, and then I want to see Jalen Pickett kind of go at it for Penn State. Penn State's an on-the-bubble team right now. I think I checked. I think they're a last four-in team right now, the Nittany Lions are. But, man, I look at the Penn State Nittany Lions, and I believe if they beat Illinois, they're in the tournament. If they lose to Illinois and they don't do anything in the conference tournament, I think it could be a little bit sketchy come the selection show. But this is a Penn State team I believe can beat Illinois. This is a Penn State team I believe can beat Northwestern. Look at their win against Maryland, right? That's a good Maryland team that they just beat the other night at the buzzer. Okay? I look at Penn State. They can make a run to the semifinals. I look at the top of the bracket, Rutgers and Michigan. Whoever wins that game is going to be a very interesting matchup for Purdue, right? Their first game right out of the gate in the quarterfinals. When I take a look, Rutgers handed Purdue their first loss of the season earlier on this season in January. When I look at Rutgers, I've always looked at Cliff Amore. Outside of maybe Zach Edey, he's one of the best big men, athletic big men, defensive big men that can go head-to-head with a guy like Zach Edey down low. Okay, when I look at Rutgers, okay, this is a team. They're probably in the tournament. They're probably a double-digit seed. Okay, it's a defensive team. You're not going to blow anybody out. This is the Big Ten, right? I don't think anybody is really going to blow anybody out to any means right now. But when I look at Rutgers and I look at Michigan, this is a must-win game for the Michigan Wolverines. If they lose, they could possibly be in the outside looking in terms of the NCAA tournament. When I look at Rutgers, man, a couple of wins. Maybe they're a team that can get hot and lock some teams down here towards the end of the season as we approach tournament play. But, man, when I look at all of this stuff, when I look at every single one of these matchups, these are great matchups. And this is what the Big Ten tournament is all about. It's about these great matchups leading into the NCAA tournament. When I look at teams that can maybe make a run, right? That's what we all love about March, right? We love UMBC. We love St. Peter's. We love those types of stories. Which teams inside the Big Ten can be that kind of story? I look at Penn State like I look at the guard play. A lot of times when you take a look at a team that can make a deep tournament run, it's a lot of times a good star guard that can lift you the way. I think Jalen Pickett can do that. They've got other good guards in that lineup as well. I look at Illinois. That winner of Penn State and Illinois, I don't want to play them. Okay, those are two teams that I think are going in the right direction and that are going to carry a lot of momentum come March Madness. I want to talk about Purdue. Purdue seems to be the odds-on favorite. I watched them about a week ago, and I'm like, man, outside of Zach Edey, a lot of times there's a lot of struggling from the supporting cast to really step up. That's, I think, the problem. Are you going to run into a team with a physical big man that can go man-to-man down low on the block with Zach Edey? Are you going to run into a guy that can body him up? Now, Purdue, you got to make shots. Braden Smith, you got to make shots. Fletcher Lawyer, got to make shots. You got to hit shots from the perimeter. If Purdue can't do that and the other team is locking in on Zach Edey, I could see Purdue going down. Now, I want to see, okay, out of all these teams in the Big Ten, I think Purdue is the best bet to make a Final Four run for obvious reasons. I think Illinois is up there as well. I think Indiana could do it, although I think maybe Illinois and Purdue kind of stand out a little bit more to me right now than the Indiana Hoosiers. Want to know what you guys think? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Who's going to make a run? Dark horse? Who are some of the favorites? Who's going to throw the confetti in Chicago when it's all said and done?